ESPN recently released a top 74 players list. And I got to start with my guy, Isaiah, because two of the greatest Lakers in franchise histories, and not only greatest Lakers, obviously greatest players, are left in the bottom of the top 10. Kobe Bryant, number 9, and Shaquille O'Neal, number 10. How did you feel about that?
You know what? Forget all that stuff about Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers. I'm not here to talk about the Lakers. After reading the list one more time, ladies and gentlemen, I am utterly disgusted right now. ESPN needs to get rid of whoever made that list because that's utterly blasphemous. The problem that I have with the list is you have 74 players, right? Top all-time 74 player list. And Devin Booker is not even on the list. Are you kidding me? I mean,
See, this is what Mark wouldn't do. Shout out, delusional stuff. But
I took one look at the list and I was like, I nearly passed out of a heart attack. That's how pathetic it was. Devin Booker, let me tell you guys something right now. This dude has so many 40, 50, 60, 70 point games. This dude is clutch with the basketball. He's an extremely deadly three-point shooter. He can get to the hole. He can pass the ball. He can run an offense. He can get his own shot. This dude also has a Kobe and MJ killer instinct. This dude is going to be the next Kobe Bryant. You've heard it here first. It's an absolute disrespect that Devin Booker is not even on the list. I cannot believe it. I'm totally done with looking at that ESPN list. It's just disgraceful. And man, I just don't have any words, man. Devin Booker, not even top 74. Like, I'm not saying you put him top 10 or top 20 or even 30, but not even top 74. That's a joke.
Isaiah.
I'm not going to address this Devin Booker point anymore. It's been endless, man.
It's an ongoing.
If you guys want to go destroy him on this hill, go ahead.
I just have 1 point. I just have 1 point to add to this. Devin Booker's biggest career accomplishment is not missing any shots in the playoffs. It's mainly because he hasn't taken any, but that's beside the point.
Exactly, man. You know what Dion Waiters said? He'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 3, because if he goes 0 for 30, that means he stops shooting. The thing is, Devin Booker never started shooting in the playoffs because he never made it.
See, Isaiah, I know you said you almost had a heart attack that you didn't see Devin Booker on the list. If I'd opened the list and I'd saw Devin Booker, I would have probably had a heart attack. That's all I have to say.
I mean,
same here.
I would tell you this, Shree, you wouldn't have coronavirus to worry about. You'd have bigger and more immediate things to worry about from what Isaiah is saying here. Devin Booker, a top 74 player of all time. Come on, man. I will give you guys one name for a guy that I think was deserving, but he didn't have the longevity. It's like, when you go into work and you have like that really, really smart intern or guy who's just starting out his career, but he's not, necessarily going to end up being the manager, being promoted right away. That is Damian Lillard. This guy puts in 100% effort. He's got all the intangibles and all the tangible skills. I mean, he's got great leadership, great clutch ability, amazing ability to finish under contact, amazing shooting ability. He's like a slightly lesser version of Steph Curry. I mean, he is quickly catching up to Steph Curry, guys. And that is not a rapid reaction. That is not an outlandish overreaction. And yet he's not in the top 74 players of all time. I understand career longevity matters here. And we've got all these guys who finished out their career like the Jordans and the less obvious ones like Ginobili. But I think Damian Lillard is better than a lot of these guys on the list. He's simply much more talented. And for what he has done in a short span of his career, he's definitely deserving of a top 74 slot.
I mean, he's there at 72, but I think he meant top 70, which that point is valid.
Yeah, he's there at 72.
But
he's there at 72. Yeah, all the way down at 72. I still think that's disrespectful.
I have to agree with that, but I agree with you, Steven. He is really good and no doubt will climb this list, but he's still fairly early on in his career. for the longest time, he was struggling to make the All-Star game in the West. I mean, that was
Well,
a
that's because he's
big
just been
story
getting
for a while.
screwed. He was getting a raw deal, Ryan. One of the years he didn't make it was our freshman year in college. I believe Shree's junior year. They gave it to Kobe because the man was retiring. He was putting up like 0.1 points a game, though. No disrespect.
But my point is, he's been great these last couple years, but that's been such a small sample size. And if we were to give him more time to develop and we just let him do his thing for a couple more years, he will easily get into the top 50. I just think as of right now, 72 is a good spot for him. And we just have to wait a couple years and he'll continue to climb this list. He'll be in the top 50 in like 4 years, I have no doubt. But for right now, I think it's valid.
Well, I will live with that, but I do want to get back into the Lakers discussion real quickly. I wanted to get Furman's take as a Lakers fan. How do you feel about Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal being at the bottom of the top 10 list?
Well, I feel like Kobe and Shaquille, they obviously had their issues with, who is better. And obviously they had a three-peat, but they split after that. But I think Shaq and Kobe definitely deserve a lot more recognition because, like, let's just compare his numbers to Michael Jordan's. Obviously, Michael Jordan was undefeated, 6 rings with the Bulls, but Kobe and Shaq, on their prime, doing a three-peat is something that no other team has ever done besides the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan. So I definitely think, as a Lakers fan, there is a bias and a big disrespect there. And I feel like, comparing these guys to the rest of the Lakers legends, obviously Lakers had a lot of great players, but come on now, like, you're putting LeBron James at like the top 3, and like he's number 2 right now, but he's 3 and 6.
LeBron James has not surpassed Kareem yet. And that is not a bold take at all. Anyone watching out here, as long as you're not a LeBron fanboy, he has not surpassed Kareem. The only reason why LeBron jumps to number 2 is because all day, all you hear is LeBron versus Jordan, LeBron versus Jordan. You don't hear no Kobe versus Jordan or Kareem versus Jordan. It's because those guys have retired and failed to surpass Jordan, right? So then LeBron is now the next guy getting compared to him. And the comparisons with Jordan automatically put him at number 2, which I don't agree with. I think he's number 3, but I'd be very hard-pressed to put him above Kareem, Furman.
Well, I do agree there because Kareem's definitely, in career points, he's put up the bigger numbers. And I think LeBron, he obviously is a team player and he's definitely done a lot of share. But throughout his career, I think comparing him to Kareem and obviously to, Kobe and Shaq, I think he has a lot more to prove. And definitely his numbers are getting there, but he also needs the rings to prove more. If he wants to be on the top of this list.
Where do you believe Kobe and Shaq should be on this list?
I feel like they should be on the top 5. I get it. Kareem had a great career, and so did Showtime Magic. But I think, Kobe and, like I said, I feel like a three-peat is something that is very hard to do in the NBA. And given that Michael Jordan and the Bulls were the only other team that had accomplished that in such a long time, I think Kobe and Shaq definitely deserve a lot more recognition. And I think the real bias here is that all these players have been retired, and that's why people still believe LeBron has a bigger legacy. So I would put Kobe and Shaq in the top 5.
Yeah, I would put
totally.
I would put Shaq at my number 5. I have Kobe number 7 because I have Duncan at number 6. But I could definitely see the argument for Kobe and Shaq being in number 5, top 5, above Magic maybe. But one thing that I never understood was why Larry Bird is consistently rated as better than Kobe. I mean, other than passing and rebounding, if we're just talking about raw athleticism and impact on the game, I've always thought Kobe has had a greater impact than Larry Bird. Larry Bird was crazy well-rounded, and he could do everything from stealing the ball to getting rebounds to finding the right outlet pass and everything. But he didn't have that extreme athleticism you see it in guys like Kobe Bryant, even Giannis today. So I find it hard-pressed to put Larry Bird over Kobe when Kobe did everything better than Bird besides like rebounding and assisting significantly better. He was a significantly better defender, in my opinion. He was a better scorer because he was going up against better athletes. I think Kobe is absolutely disrespected here. And I think the biggest loser out of the top 10 is definitely Shaq, because I get it. Like, Kobe did not completely ride the coattails of Shaq to the championship. He was not the equivalent of like a Kevin Love or a Dwayne Wade in Miami with LeBron. He was a big contributor. You could argue that maybe he was the best on the Lakers squad, right? But ultimately, what do we remember? 3 finals MVPs went to Shaq on the Lakers and 0 when Kobe played with Shaq. Shaq had him edged out 3-0 in finals MVPs when they were on the same team. And overall, 3-2. So I don't understand, when you perform better on the biggest stage, you're overall much more dominant, how you can be ranked lower than your teammate. I mean, I understand all the hype around Kobe. I understand all the respect around him. But I personally don't think he has Shaq beat out. And I don't think Larry Bird or Wilt have Shaq beat out. Shaq is a top 5 overall player of all time.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead, Trevor.
I don't think like where Kobe Bryant and Shaq are, it kind of makes sense. If you look at all the legends up top above them, they had great pathways to their championships. Though, like, yes, Magic and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played together, but like that's towards like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's ending his twilights in his career, and that's when Magic was young. So you have to look into that perspective between when you start transitioning these players and starting to ranking them versus when they were in their prime versus towards the end of their career. Because if you look at Michael Jordan and compare to Magic Johnson, when they played, Magic Johnson was towards the end of his career. So obviously he's not in his prime to compete with a young Michael Jordan who has a lot of energy. So it's just like really hard to like balance out your certain tables and all this stuff. And where Kobe sits at 9, it's fairly fair because Larry Bird had some incredible 3-point games, and he went into like the Madison Square Garden or
I just feel like Stadium. Kobe Bryant was a better athlete than Larry Bird.
But Larry Bird had a game where the AC was broken and it was hot. It was 98 degrees in Boston Stadium. If you put Kobe in that, he would be sweating. He wouldn't be able to contend. Larry Bird was like a rose.
Oh, come on. What are you talking about, man?
He was fresh in that game. He was launching.
Bryant is the Black Mamba.
Great. You can't compare to an arena that does not have AC and it doesn't get to a player. And Larry Bird did that, and he was able to perform in that game. So that's why I can see Larry Bird being that slight, not like top edge in that conversation.
You know, Trevor, I don't necessarily agree, but I do love that story. And I totally see where you're coming from. Larry Bird is generally regarded as better than Kobe Bryant all time. But I wanted to get the perspective from a Boston Celtics fan. We have Shree here. Shree, your thoughts on the 2 Lakers falling to the bottom of the top 10 list?
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I think they're in the right spots. And I honestly think your take about LeBron and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is pretty ridiculous. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played he's number 3. He played with number 5 on the list. He played with Magic Johnson. Now you can debate, he was old, he was young, blah, 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 blah. But look at the next best player that LeBron played with on this list, Dwayne Wade. And he's at number 26. Kevin Love, not on the list. You know, Chris Bosh is not on the list. Kyrie Irving's not on the list. So if you look at the talent that LeBron has had around him in his NBA career, he's only had 2 players that are currently on the list, which are Anthony Davis and Dwayne Wade. So you can't compare, the Lakers super teams of the past to LeBron's teams now and say LeBron hasn't achieved anything. He has been, for most of our lives, the most dominant player in the NBA, for at least 10, 15 years. Now, not a lot of players can say that, not a lot of players can play 3 or 4 positions on the court like LeBron has. We saw him play point guard this year. LeBron is the ultimate versatile weapon. And over his career, he's shown that he can win in different systems with different coaches, with different players. Whereas, Kareem and Magic were mostly on the same team and were on a successful, winning franchise, unlike LeBron, who was on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's my take on LeBron. In terms of the Celtics, I agree with you, honestly. Larry Bird is kind of high. I love Larry Bird, and he actually lives in the town right next to me, so I've had a chance to meet him even
Oh,
in person.
nice.
Yeah, great guy. But in terms of like pure athleticism and in terms of his pure abilities, I don't think he's in the same class as anybody else in the top 10 here.
I don't think he
However, we do have
outclasses
to,
Kobe. I don't
What-
think he beats out Kobe, Shree.
he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But what you do have to have respect for, his grittiness and toughness, like Trevor said. In the Garden in Boston, that infamous game without AC, not a lot of modern players could play in that type of situation. And everybody always talks about the physicality of the league back then, but it's very much true. More recent players don't have to deal with that level of getting beaten up every game. So I have tremendous respect for Larry Bird, but I might put him at 10 and then slide Duncan, Kobe, and Shaq up a spot each. And I honestly would put Bill Russell at number 3. Man has 11 championships. Give him his respect. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough league out there. And one thing interesting that Bill Russell said was, there were less players and less teams back in the NBA, but that meant everything was much more competitive as well. So what he said specifically is you see John Paxson and Steve Kerr hit big shots for Jordan in the finals. If he played in my era, those guys wouldn't hit those shots because they wouldn't even be in the league. You only had 8 to 12 teams, and each team only had about 10 to 15 players. So Paxson and Kerr wouldn't be in the league back then. That's what Russell had to say about that.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine if you took all the players that are in the NBA today and condensed them down to, only 10 teams. The talent that you'd be playing every night, like night in and night out, would be ridiculous compared to what it is right now.
I mean, you'd probably have like Kevin Love, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kyle Korver coming off as the pizza man. And then you'd probably have, it'd be insane. You'd probably have Love, Hayward, Giannis, Devin Booker all on one team possibly. You could really see a bunch of like 4-star teams.
Exactly. So I think I would put him at 3. I would put Bill Russell at 4, Magic at 5, Wilt at 6, and then Duncan, Bryant, Shaq, and then Larry Bird.
Okay, last question before we move on.
Oh.
Shree, would you say Luka Doncic is the next Larry Bird? Does he compare favorably to Larry Bird?
I think he does, honestly. I love Luka. He's a great scorer. He's a great team player, just like Larry Bird was. So I think he has every chance to be. Will he have the same amount of success in the league in terms of winning and everything else as Larry Bird? I don't know. I can't say so. But I do see him, being in that same type of category. Before I sign off, I just want to talk about some notable omissions from the list that, in my opinion, was kind of disrespectful. Where's Klay Thompson? Klay Thompson's not a top 74 player?
Whoa.
I didn't see him on the list.
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't see him either.
Yeah,
In
he's
my
not
mind,
on the list.
You guys see Klay Thompson? Oh, that's BS.
Nope, I was about to address that.
He's not a
And
hooper.
that's
He's
the thing,
sorry.
guys. That's
Like
the
he
thing,
is
guys.
so
I feel like
important with KD and stuff. They can't win without him.
Exactly.
I feel like
that's
this
true.
list, right, guys? I feel like this list, besides LeBron James, right, over at number 2, and then maybe besides like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, they went purely by longevity the rest of the way through. Like you see some of these guys, right, like Magic Johnson, Wilt, Larry Bird, Duncan, all over Shaq. Like they just took the longevity, and that was it. They didn't even really factor in pure talent.
Like they even have ranked Anthony Davis at 45, but like he has like no stats from like different years. So I really question the credibility of this list. And also Isaiah Thomas is like really low. He played against Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird and able to beat them. So why is he ranked so low? Explain this to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Ryan, did you have something to add real quickly?
Yeah, I wanted to quickly address the Kobe Bryant and Shaq debate and also the
Shaq is
LeBron
better,
debate.
Ryan.
I just have to say this notion that LeBron hasn't passed people like Kobe, Shaq, or Duncan is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's think about what defines a great basketball player. You want a basketball player that can win you games when it matters in the playoffs. And if we look at win shares solely in the playoffs, LeBron's win share, which is an estimated number of wins contributed by a player, obviously, LeBron has 51 wins. He's contributed 51 wins. Shaq, with more playoff appearances, so more playoff series, or more playoff years, that is, has only 31. Kobe only has 28. And this is with less playoff series for LeBron. He has beat both of them by 20 plus. And people are saying, oh, LeBron's played more playoff games than them. Therefore, he has more chances to
We came
contribute
straight
wins.
out of high school, Ryan.
But because he goes to the finals so many times, he has played more playoff games than those guys. But if you look at win share per playoff game, his is like 0.218. Meanwhile, Kobe's is like 0.12 or 0.14, and Shaq is like 0.15. No matter how you look at it, on a consistent basis, LeBron is responsible for more wins in the playoffs. And let's look at like career high win shares. For Kobe Bryant, his career high win shares for the playoffs was 4.7. LeBron James had years where his win share for the playoffs was 5.8, 5.2, 5.2, 4.8, and then his fifth best one is 4.7. So no matter how you look at it, if you look at the advanced statistics in the playoffs, LeBron contributes more to winning basketball than these Laker greats that we're discussing. And yes, Kobe and Shaq won more, but they had the better team around them, as alluded to by various people on this panel.
And I'm not disagreeing with you on that, Ryan. I'm not disagreeing with you at that. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone on this panel who legitimately thinks Duncan, Shaq, or Kobe are higher than LeBron on this list or more deserving than him. I'm just simply making the argument about how Kareem is completely cheated in the greatest of all time player discussion, because all we see and hear on social media is LeBron versus Jordan. But I don't think LeBron has necessarily passed Kareem even. And this guy's completely left in the dust because all we see is LeBron versus Jordan every single day. First Take, Undisputed, whatever kind of podcast.
And I completely agree with that. I mean, my top three is Kareem, LeBron, Michael. So I completely agree with your point that Kareem is still better than LeBron. I think by the end of LeBron's career, he'll be the GOAT. He just needs a few more years. And then my second point. I'll wrap this up quickly. And my second point is Kobe and Shaq are placed pretty good. I'd say Shaq is slightly ahead of Kobe, but regardless, I think those two are placed pretty well because if you look at the same win share stats I gave you for comparing LeBron versus Kobe, Tim Duncan has a higher win share per game in the playoffs and has just more overall. Same with Wilt, same with Magic. So when you look at how they can, if you look at the advanced statistics of how these players contributed to winning games, players like Tim Duncan contributed more. Larry Bird had more win shares per playoff game, I believe. Larry Bird only has like 24 games or 24 win share, but he's playing like 3 or 4 less playoff series than Kobe. So if you take a look at like per game, it's higher than those guys. So I honestly think they're placed pretty well. And you look at Shaq, he wasn't dominant as consistently as he could have been over the stretch of his career. And Kobe was a slightly inefficient scorer. And plus, Kobe had only one MVP, while the guys above them had more than that. So if you look at just stats, advanced stats, and like awards like MVPs, I say the guys above them are better players than those two. And this isn't even a knock against Kobe or Shaq because they're still top 10 players. That is a prestigious honor. They aren't bad players. Like, this isn't a knock against them. I just think that those guys I listed, like Duncan and Bird and Wilt, are slightly above them. I actually kind of agree with this list for the most part. Like, I can understand where ESPN is coming from in the top 10. There's other problems, but I think ESPN got the top 10 mostly right.
I mean, it's hard to mess up the top 10 because nobody's saying Kevin Durant or Dirk Nowitzki would belong in the top 10. The top 10 is the easy part because it's really what you're really boiling it down to is the order of the players. Everyone agrees that Bill Russell, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird are all top 10 NBA players. So I don't think getting the top 10 period is that tough. It's really ranking the top 10. And once you have that, it's also pretty tough to just completely mess up the order in the top 10, unless you're putting some guy like Wilt number 1 and Jordan number 7, something preposterous like that. So the top 10 rankings, while I thought they were pretty like egregious, not as bad as further down this list, which I want to discuss next. And I'm going to go to my two fellow Bay Area natives, Isaiah and Furman. What do you guys think about Stephen Curry being 12 spots higher than Kawhi Leonard, despite the narrative and the fact that Kawhi Leonard is regarded as the better player than Steph Curry and has been for most of his career?
Well, for me, first of all, before I get to that point, I just gotta say, man, the producers of this show should be absolutely ashamed of themselves for turning off my mic after my Devin Booker rant which I couldn't get other stuff I really wanted to say out to you guys, the fans. So the producers, please never turn my mic off ever.
Thank
ever
you.
again.
Good job, Trevor.
Anyway, I think did you say Stephen Curry is higher than Kawhi Leonard on
He's
this
12
list,
spots higher than Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
And
I think
for
that's
most of their careers, Kawhi Leonard has been considered the better player than Steph Curry. So how does that happen? I mean, okay, if we're debating greatest players of all time, and it's not just by pure athleticism and longevity, it's not just by pure stats and longevity, you're also talking about impact on the game. I can understand Curry being 6 spots higher, maybe even 7, but to put Curry 12 spots higher than Kawhi Leonard, and you're putting guys like Kevin Garnett, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, who either didn't win a championship or were not the clear-cut number 1 player on their team when they won it, ahead of Kawhi Leonard, I just think it's preposterous. This guy is not absolutely a top 20 player within NBA history. It's just so lost.
I think that putting Curry ahead of Kawhi Leonard is absolutely the right decision. Why? Because Stephen
12
Curry
spots higher, though?
Stephen Curry has more championships. Stephen Curry revolutionized the NBA. When people, like kids, when they play basketball, they want to be like Curry. Who wants to be like Kawhi? Not me, of course not. And
Well, then by your logic, shouldn't Kobe be ahead of Kareem? Everyone talks about Kobe and not Kareem. Or Kobe and Duncan. Shouldn't Kobe be 10 spots higher than Duncan then?
Dude, you know how I feel about Kobe. I think he's the best player to ever play the game of basketball. The guy was
Okay, Trevor, am I muting him again?
The guy was a different animal. He was so clutch. Ladies and gentlemen, if you put Kobe Bryant and LeBron James on different courts with teams that are down by 2 with 10 seconds left in the game and you need a clutch basket to either tie the game or win the game, 90% Kobe Bryant makes it. 50% LeBron James makes it. That's how clear-cut it is. Kobe has more rings. Kobe is a beast, unlike LeBron James. Kobe Bryant is clutch, unlike LeBron James. This is a clear-cut answer. I don't even know why we're debating. Kobe Bryant should be higher than LeBron on this list. It's an absolute disgrace that he's not. Number 9 or 7? That's pathetic right there. But Curry, I agree. I think Curry should absolutely be ahead of Kawhi Leonard.
I just want to dispel this myth
be
that
careful
LeBron.
Of that heart attack, man.
I just want to dispel this myth that LeBron
right
isn't clutch real quick. I mean, you look at the numbers of go-ahead buckets in the last 20 seconds. LeBron is better than Kobe in that fact. If you look at just the pure numbers, Kobe went 33% on those shots, while LeBron is 45 or somewhere in that range. I don't have the exact numbers. All I know is there's a decent difference between the two. So I just want to dispel this myth that LeBron isn't clutch. It was never true. I don't know how this myth came to pass. It's just ridiculous at this point that people still think LeBron isn't clutch when he has more playoff buzzer beaters than Michael Jordan, I believe, or at least the same number.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna like address that. I'm not in agreement with Isaiah here. This guy's absolutely delusional. I wanted to go to my other fellow Bay Area resident, Furman. What are your thoughts on Curry being 12 spots higher than Kawhi?
All right, so I think it's respectable that Curry and Durant has their spots where they're at right now. It's really hard to basically come upon the list of the top 10 and just compare decades of players of how how much better they are. And I think Kawhi Leonard is really disrespected by ESPN here. I mean, I can't believe he's ranked below Charles Barkley, Moses Malone, Karl Malone. Like Charles Barkley and Karl Malone hasn't even won a ring. But look at Kawhi. He's been with two different teams, and within just 1 year with the Raptors, look how much difference he made with the Raptors. They went from being playoff contenders to being NBA champions the moment Kawhi went there. And another factor is how clutch Kawhi is. I mean, in so many instances, especially that Game 7 against the Bucks, hitting that game winner is definitely, revolutionizing. Like that's something a lot of players, the clutch factor is definitely there for Kawhi, and that's the reason why. Sorry, my bad. That was not against the Bucks, but that was against the 76ers. But you get my point. Kawhi has that clutch factor, and he's able to take his team to a really high level. And whether he was with the Spurs or the Raptors, I think he's definitely one of the highest impact players of all time. And considering that he beat the Warriors with a completely stacked team, even though they were hurt, I could tell that Kawhi was still a bigger threat to the entire Warriors dynasty in 2019 during the NBA Finals. So I think, in terms of where I would place Kawhi, I would place them pretty close to where Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant are. I wouldn't say he could be higher or lower. I'd say they could be around the same. And if there's any ties between Kawhi and Steph, I'd definitely place them at the same spots.
I would place him at number 19 ahead of Dirk Nowitzki. I think because you have to look at some of these guys who are ahead of Kawhi on this list, like Garnett, Pippen, and Nowitzki. Nowitzki was definitely a big-time playoff choker. I mean, he had the one clutch run against LeBron in the finals, but besides that, like his career was marred by early playoff exits, despite having high seeds. Garnett never was the definitive best player on his team and never really competed for the best player in the world title like Kawhi has right now. Kawhi is legit in those discussions. And then Pippen, just a sidekick to Jordan. The other thing I've got to say is that we always paint this narrative that LeBron James needed all this help to win. Let's look at Stephen Curry here. It says right here from 2016, he jumped from number 23 in 2016 to number 13 today. So Stephen Curry jumps up 10 spots from when he was basically regarded as the unanimous MVP and the possible best player in the world, when literally he won these championships as the clear second best player to Kevin Durant. I'm not talking about who's more valuable. I'm not talking about advanced metric. I'm talking about straight up who's the better player on the court. Durant absolutely outplayed Steph Curry in the playoffs both years that they won it. So how does this guy get plus 10 spots differential in credit when literally he rode Kevin Durant to those titles? I mean, you might call it unpopular, but let's break it down. 2017, Curry and Durant managed to beat the Cavs in 5 games. I'll give it to them. Curry could probably win that title without recruiting Durant. But in 2018, they would have been screwed by the Rockets without Durant. Durant was huge in all those playoff runs and leading the sweep against Cleveland. And I just don't understand it, man. Like, these ESPN guys are so inconsistent because we see rankings today where people are discussing James Harden and Anthony Davis over Stephen Curry. Like, if you're not even going to place Stephen Curry as a definitive top 4 to top 5 player in the world right now, how can he be number 13 all time? It's very, very inconsistent and dishonest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with Steven. I think Kevin Durant and Steph Curry should be further down the list. I think out of the 3 we discussed, Curry, Durant, and Kawhi Leonard, Durant should be better than all of them, and Durant should be at the give it like the 18th spot. I think guys like Karl Malone, Jerry West should be above them. I mean, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry could pass them, and I have no doubt they will. But I think ESPN jumped the gun. I think this is more where those two careers will end, not where they currently are. So give me like Durant to like 18. And I was going to say Curry was better than Kawhi, but I just did some research on these playoff statistics I just listed for LeBron.
Let's hear them. Dr. Schreiner.
And Kawhi and Stephen Curry, even though Kawhi was not regarded as like one of the best players on his team for a while, their numbers are like dead even. Win shares are almost even with like the slight advantage going to Kawhi. So to me, it's almost a tie. I may give it to Steph Curry for now because of the two MVPs. So Durant 18, Curry 19, Kawhi Leonard 20.
Okay.
Just a slight edge because of MVPs. Give it like 2 or 3 more years, and I think Kawhi passes Curry.
And I respect that. And the last thing I'm going to say about this list is that Stephen Curry jumped 10 spots without winning a single Finals MVP in those years. He still has yet to win a Finals MVP. Whether he deserved it in 2015 or not is a moot point, because this is the differential from 2016 to today. Curry jumped 10 spots and Durant jumped 8. Durant had Curry beat in Finals MVPs 2-0. How does Curry improve his legacy more than Durant? That is just insane to me, especially with the narratives that they paint about Curry over at ESPN.
Both of them jumped way too much, in my opinion. If you look at Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, they had Klay Thompson, Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Why should you jump up 10 spots or 8 spots when you have so much talent on your team? It's not surprising that they won the championship. Everyone expected them to win the championship. They had way more talent than everyone else. So I really don't get the jump. Kevin Durant at 14, I have no problem, but Stephen Curry should not be in the top 20. He has not accomplished as much as players like Giannis or players like Kawhi have done by themselves without the help of Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson. Giannis is disrespected here, and Kawhi Leonard is disrespected here. And Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are somewhat overrated for Kevin Durant, but Steph Curry, he should be down, 10 spots lower than where he is right now.
Well said. And the thing is, Isaiah brought the playground analogy up, and he said that in terms of changing the game, people are saying Steph Curry. They're saying Curry when they shoot the ball. They're not saying KD or Kawhi. So legacy impact-wise, Curry's higher on the all-time list. By that logic, why are they putting Larry Bird over Kobe? Like I said, those guys are very close in career, and Kobe brought the damn game to China. Like, he brought a lot of the awareness of the NBA we have today in China. He brought it over there along with Yao Ming. He had a way bigger global impact on the sport than some of the guys on this list. Why is he down at number 9? It's just so inconsistent that, I'll let Ryan go ahead.
Wait, Ryan, before you go ahead, I just want to clarify my point. I think Curry should be ahead of Kawhi Leonard, but I don't think Kawhi Leonard should be 12 spots below Curry. That was my
that's the big spiel.
Point.
Okay,
I
Ryan.
want to chime in.
Yeah.
Oh, Trevor.
I'm like looking at Kawhi Leonard. His career, he wasn't like part of like the Spurs the big dynasty with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and all those guys. He came off the bench and like filtered his way in, and he worked his way through. And then when you saw him when he competed against LeBron James in the super heat, he really took it up a notch to propel himself forward to become a key role in the Spurs dynasty later down the line. When he had the opportunity to transition to the Raptors were already a team that got the first seed in the past few playoffs. He was the thing that took them over the edge. And you could say that, yes, Curry and him are the same thing, but Kawhi did it from the bench versus where Curry was a starter majority of his career at that point when he got ready to win those championships versus Kawhi getting ready from off the bench, being a huge factor against a super team, helping the Spurs to win a title. I think Kawhi should at least be closer to like in the teens, if not in that sense.
and he barely had any time to integrate with the Raptors. And out and like right away, he came off of a stupid Zaza Pachulia petty foul. I don't know if he did it intentionally or not, but Kawhi Leonard, he got really hurt in 2017 to 2018, wasn't able to play. Fresh off the injury, new team, new environment, in an already established Raptors system. What does this guy do? He just plays like the best player on the planet. He plays like it. I'm not saying he was, but he played like the best player on the planet that year, 2018 to 2019, when he was recovering from the injury, literally. And then on the Spurs, he's in an already established dynasty. And what does he do? He takes over the Spurs, surpasses Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan from the bench. There's just not much more that can be said about Kawhi Leonard. I don't understand why he is 11 to 12 spots below Curry and KD. Any final thoughts on this, guys?
It's like, what else does he have to do to prove that he's within, like, getting close to the top 10 at some point? Like, what else does he have to do? Win a scoring title, lead the league in assists? Like, what else does he have left?
Trevor, he's got to win back-to-back unanimous MVPs or win 6 chips like Jordan, apparently, because he's not flashy.
It shouldn't always be about championships. Come on, guys. It's about how you play in those games. You could get swept, and it's like, well, I'm going to rank to him because he got to the NBA Finals. Like, no. You got to see how he plays in the NBA Finals. Come on.
And the thing is, guys, Kawhi only has one less championship than Curry, and he makes it up by having 2 more Finals MVPs. The other thing is, Curry's only really been better than Kawhi for 3 years of his career, which was 2015 through 2017. And one of the years was because his fellow teammate Zaza went out on a mission and injured this dude. So he was out for 2017 to 2018.
Yeah, I have one more thing to add to this list. I just want to preference this by saying one thing. I love Giannis. Like, I am basically the president of the Giannis fan club.
There he is.
Really, really like Giannis. And I think he's currently the best player in the NBA. Yes, I said it. But I think 27 on this list is way too high. Look, there is no doubt in my mind Giannis is going to finish in the top 20 and could even contend for the top 10. But right now, he just hasn't done it long enough. He just hasn't put in enough good years to warrant being ahead of guys like John Stockton, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Isaiah Thomas. I mean, these guys were monsters, and they did it for such a long time. I have no doubt that Giannis will pass these guys if he does what he does or does what he's currently doing for 3 or 4 more years. But let's give it some time. This feels like another projection, like, oh, this is where Giannis could go, but that's not where Giannis is at right now. We should just wait and give it more time, and then when he does this for a couple more years, rightfully rank him there. But he's only been dominant for like 2 or 3 years. I just need to see more. He does this for 3 more years, like I know he will. He will easily.
And if he wins another MVP, or if he goes to the NBA Finals, even an appearance, it'll catapult him into the top 25.
I mean,
especially with how he played.
I disagree with that because if you look at a lot of the players above him, I honestly think he's a little low. Because if you look at the players that, have been at one time the best player in the league, you don't see a lot of players below him that have undisputedly or, in the minds of most, been the best, most dominant player in the league, which Giannis very much is today. So that's why I have a problem. I have a problem with putting Steph Curry above him because at no point was Steph Curry, in my opinion, even a top 3 player in the league. His MVP season being the one exception where I would have put him at number 3, but even still, I would have put LeBron and Durant over him. So just the fact that Giannis is, for the past 2 years, in my opinion, has been the most dominant and best player in the league, means that, he's above him. And look at who's right above him, Dwayne Wade. I love Dwayne Wade. He's a great basketball player. But again, I would have never at any point in Dwayne Wade's career said that Dwayne Wade is the best player in the league. And
I think – go ahead.
And that's something that, that's something I think that needs to be taken into account. We can talk about playoffs and we can talk about finals MVPs, but look at Giannis's team, look at who he has around him, and yet he continues to be as dominant as he is. And I think that's honestly underappreciated. I mean, you see a lot of these players because they're in the playoffs year in and year out, and they're on these super teams, especially the players like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. And I feel like they're very overrated just because of that fact. Whereas players that maybe are on less flashy teams like Giannis, or even less flashy players like Klay Thompson, who's not even on the list, are kind of left out or are lower than where they should be.
I think we're both right, just because the way we approach this list. You seem to approach the list by putting more emphasis on the guys' best years, or like how they were at their peak. And if you rank it with that as your primary focus, yes, Giannis should be above the guys you listed. And I went more like longevity, like did you do it over a long period of time? And with that, I think he's a little high. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're both right, just because we view the list in different ways.
Yeah, at this point, we're really pulling hairs between the perspective of longevity versus peak performance. But, we're running a little long here. So, guys, that's going to do it for us. We really would have loved to have gone into Isaiah's JT Daniels rant. Congratulations to the former 5-star recruit for landing on the Georgia Bulldogs. But we will table that for our next discussion. And thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll leave you with some high hopes.
Wait.
Oh, and be sure, guys, to
Steven.
follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, and our Facebook page. Isaiah.
Yeah, before we go, I just have a quick announcement to make. Make sure you guys tune in next week to Fan Response and Quarantine Chats. It's going to be another epic week for us. Next week on Fan Response on Wednesday, we've got John Spencer, former basketball player at Howard University. He played for the Charlotte Hornets. He then worked in the New York Knicks front office, worked for ESPN as well, and also now works as an agent and is at his own sports agency firm called Sports 540. He will be joining Fan Response to talk about the state of the Knicks, talk about his experiences as an agent. And then on Friday, we will be joined on Quarantine Chats by Rachel L. Hill, current Cleveland TV 20 sports reporter. She also has her own radio show there in Cleveland. She will be joining us to talk about the state of the Cleveland Browns. Is Baker Mayfield the quarterback for the Browns moving forward? Her thoughts on the Kevin Stefanski hire. Then we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers with her. Is Dante Exum a player that the Cavs want to keep moving forward? Is Colin Sexton the right guy the Cleveland Cavaliers should build around moving forward? And then we're going to jump into Ohio State football, and we are going to talk to her about, is this finally the year that Jim Harbaugh and my Michigan Wolverines take down the Ohio State University? So I can't wait. OSU talk, Cleveland Cavaliers talk, and Cleveland Browns talk all next week. Plus, we're talking about the New York Knicks. 2 epic guests. Can't wait. Epic week. Tune in next week, guys.
Great way to wrap it up, Isaiah.
Hold on. I have to give one spoiler alert. The answer to the is Michigan beating Ohio State question, it's no. Sorry for the spoiler alert, guys. But
no. Ohio State will keep on rolling.
I'm surprised Steven didn't beat him right there.
All right.
Well, now also, with Rachel, one last we're going to be talking about with her is about we're going to be talking to her about Steven's point, is Urban Meyer overrated as a coach? So make sure you tune in for that.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up right there at that extreme point view. You guys won't want to miss that for sure. Ryan and I are going to give you our raw opinions. Sree's going to be debating us on that. But be sure to follow us on Twitter. Be sure to like our Facebook page. Follow us on our YouTube podcast page that Ryan and I set up. And that's going to do it for us, guys. We'll leave you with some high hopes. Thank you very much.